There are so many things about Rivers, both his career and his personality, that I find fascinating. I first met him many years ago. There was a 3-year stretch where Mike and I did Monday night football games. We did the second Monday night game 3 years in a row on that opening weekend. And one of the years we had the Chargers. And so we sat down, we had a production meeting, and we actually sat with Phillip Rivers, and I had the chance to just sit and talk to him for about a half hour. And let me tell you, if you ever want to learn something about football, sit and talk to Phillip Rivers for a half hour. I know that he is now going to become a high school football coach rather than he would be an excellent analyst. The way he sat there and broke down football for me was fascinating, and the sort of approach and attitude and all of the things that you already know about him, the whole dadgummit of it all, I just found him to be a fascinating person in every conceivable way. So I've always sort of kept a close eye on him. This is a very long time ago before he became what he is now, which is, I believe, a surefire first ballot Hall of Famer. Let me give you a couple of numbers. Not that numbers ever tell the full story of a person's career, certainly not his. But there are some good numbers. He is the second quarterback now to throw for 4,000 yards in his final season. Second in NFL history. Do you know who the other one was? The other one was Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck was 29 at the time. Rivers is 39. He played 17 years, 16 of them as a Charger, started the last 240 games of his career in a row. Second longest streak by any quarterback in history, behind only, of course, Brett Favre. He finishes 5th all-time in yards and 5th all-time in touchdowns, and he will go down as having always been remembered in two separate sets of quarterback groups. One of them is that during the time that he was playing in the AFC, the conference was dominated by Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. Let me give you an extent to which that impacted Rivers. 2006, Rivers goes 14-2, loses to Brady in the playoffs. 2007, Rivers goes 11-5, loses to Brady in the playoffs. 2018, Rivers goes 12-4, loses to Brady in the playoffs. He is the only quarterback in history to lose 3 playoff games to Tom Brady. And so that's what it ultimately will be. He was the guy who just couldn't quite get over the top, because the very few that were left on the table by Brady during his era were generally snapped up by Peyton Manning, or in a couple of cases, by Ben Roethlisberger. And that, of course, is the other group you will always remember him with. These quarterbacks, every now and again, we remember them for the classes they came out in. And there are some legendary quarterback classes, the most famous of them all, the 83 class, that had 6 quarterbacks in it, 3 of whom were in the Hall of Fame: Elway, Marino, Kelly. The 2004 class, which now has only one of the 3 legends remaining, will also produce 3 Hall of Famers. Eli Manning was drafted first that year by San Diego, traded an hour later to the Giants for Phillip Rivers, who was drafted 4th that year by the Giants, and then, of course, Ben, who went a little bit later that day. We were doing the draft that day. I remember it vividly. I remember watching that whole thing unfold. And so I think that I would look at it this way. In some ways, Phillip Rivers' legacy as one of the greatest quarterbacks ever not to win a championship kind of justifies Eli Manning and the Manning family not wanting to go to San Diego. And here's what I mean by that. When you look at those 3 quarterbacks from the 04 class, Eli, Rivers, Ben, if you ask me which one was the best quarterback, I think I would say Rivers. I think I would pick Rivers as the best of those 3 players. But he's going to go down as the least accomplished, because Ben has 2 championships and Eli has 2 championships, and Phillip Rivers only got himself to a conference championship game 1 time and never started in a Super Bowl. But I think it is my legitimate opinion that if you just said in a vacuum, which of those 3 guys was the best player, I think I'd say Rivers. He just didn't win. Eli got red hot on 2 separate occasions, parlayed that into 2 championships, and God bless him. And he absolutely belongs in the Hall of Fame. But if you just lined them up next to each other and said you could draft that guy or that guy, not knowing any of how it was going to go out, I think you would take Rivers. Ben is a tougher one, Because Ben, my image of Ben is always of him with like two guys draped, one on one leg and one guy draped on the other leg, and Ben is just sort of standing in there and still managing to complete a 7-yard pass on 3rd and 6. To me, Ben versus Rivers is very close when it comes to which guy you would take at their best. But it's obviously not close in accomplishment. Ben Roethlisberger is a 2-time Super Bowl champion in Pittsburgh, and Phillip Rivers is not. And so that is the way I think his career will be remembered. Shouldn't be diminished. He is an all-time great. Straight Talk Wireless, no contract, no compromise. In the meantime, it also opens up the quarterback spot in Indianapolis. And if I am a quarterback with some options this offseason, that's one of the first places I look. You play your game in a dome. Your home games are played in a dome. You've got a coach who was a quarterback himself and who quarterbacks seem to love playing for in Frank Reich. You've got a really good defense. You've got a really good defensive line. You're not offensive line. You're not in Patrick Mahomes' division. There are a lot of reasons why I think Indy would be a very attractive place if you're Matthew Stafford. Maybe if you're Deshaun Watson. Let's see what winds up happening. The first place people will look will be Carson Wentz. To that, I say no freaking way. After the Eagles did what they did, firing their coach, basically giving Wentz the victory in a power struggle, I can't see any way they trade him. So the immediate reaction would have been Wentz with Reich. It makes sense. That would have been the place to look. Right now, it would be putting 2 and 2 together and getting 5. Carson Wentz isn't getting traded. So I don't know who the quarterback of the Colts is going to be next year, but it isn't going to be Carson Wentz. It is going to be someone who immediately is in position to make a run at a championship. Year 1. The Colts are that good. And you know what? They could easily have beaten Buffalo 2 weeks ago. And who knows where they might be right now. Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.